Hello, I'm Ian McAllister.
And I'm Oliver Kinner, and this is Brainwaves episode 126, bringing you the best in tabletop gaming news. These are the headlines for the week of 24th of July. It's a Spiel des Jahres special! All this and more on this episode of Brainwaves.
Originating in 1978, the Spiel des Jahres has long been considered the pinnacle of board game awards. While many others have popped up as the hobby has grown, the Spiel Award has always held a special place in our hobby and is coveted by designers and publishers alike. Every year, a panel of judges samples games that were released in the preceding 12 months in the German language to determine the winner of the prizes. And yes, that was prizes that I said, for you see, the Spiel des Jahres may be the main award, but there are also two other accolades, the Kinderspiel des Jahres, or Kids Game of the Year, and the Kennerspiel des Jahres, which is often referred to as the Connoisseur's Award, but we'll come back to that a little bit. On the 16th of July, the winners of this year's awards were announced. Mysterium Kids, designed by Antonin Baccara and Yves Hirschfeld, and published by Libellude, won the Kinderspiel des Jahres. Challengers, designed by Johannes Krenner and Markus Slavacek, and published by One More Time Games and Zedman Games, won the Kennerspiel des Jahres. Dorf Romantic, designed by Michael Pam and Lucas Zach, and published by Pegasus Spiel, won the Spiel des Jahres. And this year, Oliver was invited as a member of the press to the ceremony. So how was it, Oliver?
Yes, it was really exciting. Obviously, first of all, I felt very honored to be there among all these other big names from the German podcast and YouTube scene, and meet some of the jury in person, and obviously talk to some of the designers of the winners' games as well. And I think it was a really well-run event. They kept it quite light, so they introduced the category and the nominees, then played maybe a little video, something between, and had a guest sort of related to the award in some loose sense. So it was quite entertaining. And then they obviously got that guest to announce the winner. And then obviously the winners came up and had their speech and all that. But yeah, it's just quite nice. It wasn't like, award and another award, another award. It was more like a nice, entertaining time. And for me as well, it gave me an opportunity to, in between, quickly post on social media, as you do, as we were talking with the guests and whatever. So, but it was really well run. It went really well. Lots of people attended, and it felt, like a real award ceremony as you would expect. So very special, and it was great to be there.
What sort of size of audience is it for the award?
Gosh, that is a good question. So obviously at the nominees there, the designers, people from the publishers, family members as well, was actually sitting next to the Dorf Romantic, one of their designers, I believe was wife and two kids. I don't actually know. So you can imagine, it was quite a large crowd. I'm just trying to think in my head how many rows of seats we might have had, but yeah, a good few dozen at the very least. So it was nice to see. Felt quite busy. And also then people from the press were there. So we had so there was the award ceremony itself. And then the next day we had one of the major German television stations there to record the press conference.
Cool.
And on German television, again, on one of the larger German television channels, the day after of the award, the morning after, they actually reported on it and had someone talking about board games and had the award winners there, as in the games themselves there. And I believe it was going to be reported on radio as well. And I think one of the judges of the jury actually works for one. She's a journalist working for a major German magazine, and I believe one of her articles was published in the following, on the website. I think goes in the magazine as well. So certainly, even in the wider sort of media space in Germany, it's quite well covered. So it was nice to see.
Awesome. And you covered it yourself. We have some interviews that Oliver carried out with some of the winners, the three winners of the Kinderspiel, and the Spiel itself. First up is the interview with the winners of the Kinderspiel this year. That was Mysterium Kids.
Je suis à la fois très content, je m'y attendais pas du tout.
He's really happy because he was an
content parce que je préfère l'idée d'une sélection de meilleurs jeux que de dire il y a un meilleur jeu, ce qui est moins simple.
It's not, he don't like the idea of one winner. He like the idea of making a selection and talk to the people that they can have a lot of choice. He prefer that he stop at the selection, not until the winner.
For myself, I want to kill everybody. Just no. I understand what say my friend because when everybody is good, it's very hard to have the first prize. But now with my age, it's a long time. I do many things. I have never earned many prizes, so I'm just happy.
Happy to receive it. No, congratulations, well done. When you designed the game, how many times did you play it? Did you play with all the drums and things, or?
Combien de temps ça vous a pris de designer le jeu et combien de temps vous avez joué ensemble?
De le créer en fait.
En
fait, ça dépend. L'idée de base, elle est arrivée très vite, en une journée.
The idea come in one day.
On était ensemble et d'un coup on a joué, ça marchait très vite.
They are together and it really works like.
Straight away, yeah.
Ensuite, on a voulu raconter une histoire et ça a trouvé l'histoire. Pourquoi on ferme les yeux? Parce qu'il y a un fantôme et que nous on dort, ça a pris plus de temps.
Finally, so the idea come really quick, but after that, to think about the story around the game. Why we close the eyes, why there is a phantom, a ghost, stuff like that.
Ensuite, et après, ce qui a pris le plus de temps, c'est avec l'éditeur où là, on a tout réfléchi avec eux sur quel dessin, sur tous les dessins, qu'est-ce qu'on mettait, qu'est-ce qu'on écrivait, avec qui.
It was really it makes a lot of time. It was the work with the publisher because they really work. Both of you, I guess, with Space Coast, so with Benoît Forget, to think about what we're going to put on the card, what kind of images, what kind of design.
Voilà, avec Léa, on devait réfléchir à tout ça.
Léa Monet is the project manager on the Mysterium Kids. So it's the part of the publisher work.
Yeah.
En réalité, when we had the idea, I said, okay, work now, I have to see. And one day, I will earn the prize. No. J'ai dit qu'au moment où on a trouvé l'idée, après, j'ai dormi et puis je me suis réveillé, on a eu le prix.
And when you playtested the game, did you have a favorite moment? Someone using the drum or the tool?
Yes, when kids are smiling, and that's a moment. That's a very good moment, of course.
Yeah, of course.
La magie de la première fois où les gens ils sont persuadés que ça marche pas, et quand ils jouent ils disent en fait ça marche.
When people play, when they first play, they say it doesn't work, and then they play and they say, oh, God, it works.
Yeah.
So it's really this moment is really important for.
Next up, we have the winner of the Kennerspiel Challengers.
So yes, I'm here with Johannes Krenner and Markus Slavicek, the winners of the Kennerspiel des Jahres Challenges. First of all, congratulations. Well done, well deserved. Obviously, obvious question. So you have a deck building game, lots of deck building games out there. You've got a battling game, lots of battling games out there. Why did you go with that? What was the idea behind? And obviously, you've taken it further. What was the idea? How did you approach it?
So we took inspiration from a kind of games which is called Auto Battler, and the aim of the game is, so to say, to build the perfect team and then just let the teams clash against each other. So for our game it was quite clear for us that we wanted to have something where you can add team members or get rid of team members, and so over the course of the game get a better and better team which you can cheer for. And so the deck building was kind of a almost obvious decision because it allows the player to really take, to really modify the team and build it in the way they want.
In a very easy way, in an approachable way.
And then, because you're fighting battles with different people over time, I presume a good deck in one battle might not be such a good deck in another battle. Was that part of the idea, that you have to think about it and rebuild your deck?
Yes. Challenges is a tournament game, and we wanted to have like these intimate moments with different players. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's we went with the sports theme because we didn't want to have like a battle. In the auto battlers in the computer game genre, they always have fantasy figures that are beating each other up, and we said, why didn't nobody come up with some sort of sport that's a peaceful activity? And so we took we were originally had like animals that had a secret sport that humans don't know about. But then the theme diversified, and now it's a capture the flag tournament with crazy characters.
So speaking of the crazy characters, what are your favorite cards? Have you got a favorite card that you really
From
like?
the illustration?
Illustration or the action?
The Merman is the greatest illustration in all board game illustration. So it's Jeff Haba. I think he's
did an amazing job. My favorite card is actually the Necromancer, because for this card I think it is just like such a well-rounded package, because you have the theme which fits the ability, and then the artwork is amazing, and also sometimes I just love to play the card and revive my other cards, even if it's sometimes not the best decision. I just like to build my deck around
just because you can. No, thank you very much. Congratulations again. Great game. I have only played on BGA, but I know it doesn't work on BGA because you're just clicking. You have to play it in person. So I need to get myself a copy and actually play with people.
Different experience.
Yeah, it's just. I think it's the idea that you do play with people, and that's the important part. So thanks very much, and congratulations again. Thank you.
And finally, we've got an interview with the winner of the Spiel des Jahres itself, the Dorf Romantic designers.
So I'm here with Pallet.
Yes, hello.
And Lukas Zach.
Hi.
Yeah, I can do that in German. Yeah. Winners of Spiel des Jahres, Dorf Romantic.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Happy winners.
Happy winners.
Yeah.
I hear you've been very nervous beforehand. How was the time, the week or 2 weeks before, or after the nominations were announced, and until now? How did you feel?
Directly after the nominations, we were very excited. Then we tried to push it away for a while. But the last week was horrible.
Yeah.
And especially here, it was so exciting for us. I mean, I said that before. So many people would say now, it was clear that you would win, but for us it's not clear.
You don't know.
It's an honor to get those, and there's always a surprise. The jury of Spiel des Jahres. It could always be a surprise for everybody, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. You cannot expect to get another nomination, so it was really, really exciting for us.
Yeah, well done. So, the obvious question, this is a computer game. Why did you feel you have to translate a computer game into a board game? Why did you come up with the idea, we're going to translate it into a board game?
Because the video game is already very board gamey. It's basically a board game with an infinite amount of tiles, which is the problem. Problem for us, but which is the cool thing about the video game, right? And so it feels really natural for us to do this. And especially if you can play it then with the whole group at the table, which is different from the video game.
You discuss your moves.
So it turns a sort of a solo experience into a group experience.
Yes, and it works for solo as well for groups. And this was kind of a surprise for us, because we saw the people discussing so much about every single tile.
Yeah, and now in October there will come a Dorf Romantic dual version.
Yeah.
So you can play against each other.
Yeah. With teams or with single players.
Okay.
Yes. If you want,
And so how does that work? Are you just trying to build the best Dorf, basically, or?
Yes, but we put new
sind Aufträge.
Tasks.
New tasks inside, new kind of tasks into the game, and 2 modules which make the game a little bit more tactical.
Okay. Yeah, and obviously you have 2 sets of a special setting that work better for the dual mode. And one has a hidden stack and the other open stack. And so both have exactly the same tiles and must do the best with it.
So designing this game or translating it from a video game into a board game, what was the most difficult part, would you say, to make it work?
That you don't have endless tiles, of course, and we had to make it interesting with the campaign. I think the campaign took a lot of time.
Yeah, because this is really the spice of the game, the campaign. And but another very time-intensive task was to create the basic set. Because you have so many tiles, you have 6 sides, and you have to decide on which side you put what. And in the video game, they are generated. Yeah. And it's infinitive. So yeah, this took a lot of time and a lot of brain work to do.
Well, I've yet to play the game, but congratulations and
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of the evening.
We will.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now, I got jealous, Oliver. I didn't want to miss out on all the action. But thanks very much to your efforts. I had an interview with Martina Fuchs, who is one of the judging panel this year and has been for the last couple of years as well. And we'll just play that interview for you right now. I'm delighted to welcome Martina Fuchs to the cast. How are you doing, Martina?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you for inviting me.
It's a real pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much for giving us your time. You're a member of the Spiel des Jahres jury. Can you tell us a little bit about your gaming background and how you came to be a member of that jury?
I was playing since I'm a kid, and I was playing always Spiel des Jahres games. So it's really a award which I know since I'm a little child. But then I stopped playing about being 14, 15. I have other things in my mind and not really board games. And I started playing really about 2008 with Dominion. And Dominion was one of the games that really get me into playing again. And when you have to be a critic to be a member of the jury. So 5 years ago, I started my podcast, Fuchs und Bär, which when you will translate it is Fox and Beer. And we started this podcast not really with having in mind to be a jury member, because our podcast is about huge games like Kingdom Death Monster or Gloomhaven or Virgin Queen or things like that. With very, very long episodes, like 3 or 4 hours. And yeah, we go very deep into the games.
Sure.
And I've had this podcast 2 years, and then really I've got an email like, hey, Martina, I would like to talk with you from our chairman, Harald Trappers. And then we phoned, and he asked me, Martina, would you like to be a jury member? And then you really have to think about it, because it's a very much playing you have to do. And then you have a little time to think about it. And then all the jury members has to vote. They have to vote if they want you to come in or not. And then you have 1 year, you're in the jury, and after that is another vote. So it's always like you for yourself, you can look, is it a work I want to like to do, and all the others think, okay, does she fit in the group, and so on. And this is how I became a jury member 3 years ago. So this is the 3rd award I was voting.
Yeah. So you have to be sort of readmitted every year to the jury to be a jury member?
No. It's only the first years for 1 year, and then we have every 4 years.
Every 4 years.
Right. So
yeah. And do you have to sort of when you were first elected, do you have to sort of give a pitch as to what you're going to bring to the jury, or is it just a matter of the other jury members deciding whether you fit or not?
It's because we are critics. You can see what we do, and the other jury members, I wasn't there, so I couldn't get a pitch. You have a lot of talks to some of the jury members, and then the jury members discuss, but without you, and they discuss if it fits or not. And I think really because they see how you're working and what you're doing, they can imagine if you are the right person for this jury membership or not.
Right. So, I mean, the Spiel is regarded as like the award by the board game industry. Can you kind of give us an idea of the process behind the awards? How do the jury go about selecting games? How do they go about whittling them down, and then the eventual award itself?
I think the first thing I have to say is that we all do this as a volunteering job. So we're not paid, and we're not allowed to be involved in the industry. That's very important. Our partners or children or anything are not allowed to be involved into the industry.
Okay.
So I think this is one very important point. And then from the work, you see we're podcasting with a picture, and you see all the games behind me. We are testing about 250 to 300 games per year.
Wow.
And we're testing them in different groups with different people, from casual gamers as well as game addicts, to choose then really the right game for both of our awards. Because I'm not in the jury for Kinderspiel. This is an extra jury, because you have to play with children.
Yeah, of course.
And this is really very different to the work we do.
Sure.
Because we are playing a little bit with children, of course, by our 8 or 10 or a little bit older. But the most we are playing really with adults. Yeah, and then you get all the games. It's not really that we will get them. We are like other critics, or we write mails and ask for review copies. And because we get a little bit more than a normal reviewer, I think, because we try to search that we will get really every game which comes out in German, because this is important. We always looking for the German games.
Yes.
So things happened like Fantasy Realms, like everybody in English knows a long time, 2 years ago. And at 2020, it was the first year where you can play Fantasy Realms in German. So we were looking for all the German stuff. And this is really about 250 to 300 games, about 350 when you take all the expansions and so on with you. But we are not looking at any expansion. We are only looking at the base game.
Sure. Okay.
And then really it's a lot of playing. It's like when you think about 250 to 300 games, it's not only one game a day, but about, so I think we all play about at least 3 or 4 times a week.
Sure.
And then at the weekend a little bit, and at other special things. So we are playing every time I have time. I'm playing game.
Wow. So how does that sort of like that 250, 300 titles get whittled down to the sort of short lists and then the winners?
Yes, it's really when it started, every jury member has to write a letter, and the letter was sent per post office to one of the members who collected them and do a list. Now we're in the digital time, so we have Excel sheets and working on Excel and have there a list of every game which is in this year.
Wow.
And there we will have a little scale, like a minus, a plus, and a circle.
Yeah.
Which I do after I play a game.
Sure.
And when I see a lot of my other jury members have a minus on it, I can think about to not play the game.
Okay.
Or when I have a minus and everyone else have a plus, I really have to play it again.
Yeah.
And write with the other jury members, because we have an internet forum where we are writing about all the games and so on, because we are located everywhere in Germany. So we're not at one point and meet all the time. We're really writing a lot of the games. Yes, and then about after the Spiel in Essen, one month further, about end of October, at the beginning of November, we're beginning to do a top X list. This is the list where we think we have games which we would put on the nomination when it would be May. And so we start to create a list with all the games. We really think this is a very, very good game, because we don't have so much bad games. We had a very lot of okay games or good games. But the game for the lists and for the nomination has to be really great. And so we're collecting with the top X list. We are creating the list of all the really great games. And you see what title the other put on this list. Mm-hmm. And this develop all the time. And in May, we come together for a huge Klausur, you call it, and we're sitting in a hotel and talking about every game which is on this top X list. So everybody is allowed then to take a month of 15 titles with him, and then we go into this and talk about every game which is on it. It's then about 30 to 40 games we are discussing.
Right.
And then we are, at that time, we are 11 people in the jury for Spiel des Jahres and Kenner Spiel des Jahres. And every game which will come in the next round has to have 6 votes. And this is the thing. And then you have a smaller list. You're discussing again, and then you have a smaller list. And then we discuss about, okay, which are the games we will nominate. It's the real thing. And then we discuss about the further list we're doing. And this is how you get from 250 games to 300 to 15. About.
Great. So this year, Dorfromantik won the Spiel des Jahres. Can you give us an insight into why that game was chosen over the sort of shortlist candidates?
So I'm not allowed to give you the reason or inside things why we choose Dorfromantik, but I can say what I really like about Dorfromantik. Dorfromantik is really a cozy game. You can play it as you want to play it. You can play it like every time you get 120 points, or you can play it, I will always get better and better and better and better. So you can play it as cozy as you want to play it. I was taking Dorfromantik to my wargamers and was asking them, please, can you play Dorfromantik with me? Because we have to play it with different players. And so I try to do it with my wargamers. And the normal people start by about 100, 120 points for the first round. They really hit it with 158 points in the first round. So you can play Dorfromantik very strategic if you want to do it. But you don't need to have to. So it's a cooperative game.
Yeah.
It's very cozy. You can play it after a hard day of work. You can play it with 2 people. You can play it alone. You can play it with 6 people if you want to. So this is really what I love at Dorfromantik. And it's always when you played one game, you always have the chance to open something, to get something new, and then you start playing again. And so it's I think you feel very good while you're playing Dorfromantik, and so I really love this game.
I'd like to come away from the specifics of this year to talk about the sort of Spiel in general. In recent years, and maybe for the entire of its run, the Spiel has always felt like it's focused on the lighter side of the hobby games market. Why do you think the Spiel trends in that direction?
I really don't think we are such going into the lighter market. When you're thinking about Cascadia last year, I think Cascadia is not really a very light game. But it has the chance for people to play it very light. Sure. So you can use the different cards, and you can play it very, very light with the cards where you only choose to get three kind of an animal. Mm-hmm. But you can increase the game, and I think this is very important. We are not looking for the lightest game. We are looking for a game for everybody. I think it's very important to think about what Spiel des Jahres wants to do. We're not searching for the best game of the year.
Sure.
We are searching for the best game for everybody. And for everybody, it's really the people mean they're always playing Monopoly or Kniffel or Phase 10 or something like this.
Sure.
And they want to play something else. And this is what we have in mind when we nominate games, that the Spiel des Jahres games should have the option for everybody to play this game. Like, it's very normal here in Germany that for Christmas, you're buying the Spiel des Jahres game and open it in the evening before Christmas. You open your gift and play it with the whole family. This is one typical thing people buy Spiel des Jahres. And so when you have a very high-rated game, when you just look at the BGG rating of 3, something like this, it would be much. Or even a rating for 2 could be difficult when you have no lighter rules like Cascadia.
Sure.
And this is what we think. And it's not only when I talk, it's a game for everybody. Like it's not so long that I was not in the jury, and Spiel des Jahres games were always the things I used as a starter or an ender, like just one or so on. I never imagined I would play a whole evening Spiel des Jahres games. Now I have to do it, but before I was in the jury, I took the Spiel des Jahres games as a starter or as an ender, and this is why I think Spiel des Jahres is a game for everybody.
Yeah,
there are people who are playing it the whole evening because they like lighter games.
Yeah,
and the one who really like more heavier games. I know it. I always play a game like this after the heavy game, or perhaps before everybody arrived or so on. You say, okay, as a starter, let's get a lighter game on. So this is, I think, the thinking after Spiel des Jahres. And so it could not be a very hard game because everybody should have the option to play it.
Yeah.
The Kennerspiel des Jahres is not really for experts. It's really a game for the people always buying the Spiel des Jahres game once a year, or perhaps playing 2 or 3 of the Spiel des Jahres games and thinking, okay, board gaming is cool. I want to do more. I want to see more. And for them, it's the Kennerspiel des Jahres. So if they want to do a little bit more than Spiel des Jahres, it's Kennerspiel des Jahres. So this is not an award for the experts who know everything and looking at BGG or other things for games. It's really an option for people who say, okay, I want to play a little bit more. They can choose the Kennerspiel.
Sure. I've heard the Kennerspiel, the translation gets a bit lost sometimes for Kennerspiel. I've heard it referred to as the Connoisseurs Awards a couple of times. Is that about right? Or
not really?
It doesn't feel quite right.
Yes, it's really hard because you have no English word for Kenner, which really means what we want to transport with this. Because it's not an expert game. A lot of people say, hey, why didn't one Eichenova last year, for example? So it's a wonderful game, but when I always playing things like Micro Macro and Just One and Cascadia, Eichenova would be a really hard game. So,
that's a jump. Yeah.
So we couldn't nominate this great game. So it's really difficult to explain what Kennerspiel is. So I think there's no word for it.
Yeah.
It's like Spiel des Jahres isn't the game of the year. It's often translated as the game of the year.
Yeah.
But the best game of the year would be the best game in 1 year. But it's not the best game. It's the best game for the agenda we have at Spiel des Jahres.
Yeah.
Like finding a game for everybody.
Yeah, reaching out to that wider audience. Yeah, it's a great idea. It's a great philosophy.
Yeah, it's because we want the people to start gaming.
Yeah.
And this is really something which I think it's very important, and it's getting more important year after year because everybody is working so much digital. And I think it's important to say, hey, this is really a great hobby, and it's nothing only for kids. I think everybody who plays games know this. Oh, I'm a board gamer. Oh yes, really? I think it's only something for children. No, is it not?
One of the things that the Spiel committee has said in the past, I think it was a couple of years back, they basically came out and said we haven't considered some games because of the bad rule books in those games. Why do you think the industry still continues to produce games with such a fundamental problem in being able to explain games through rulebooks to customers?
I don't think that they do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Really, I hope so. I think it's very, very difficult to write board game rules, and it's not so easy to write a rule book which really take the player from the beginning to the end through the game. I think they are all doing their best and trying to do their best, but they have to pay all the people.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you're just in a tunnel when you're creating a board game. And then you have to have a very good editor for the rule books.
Yes.
It's not only the thing of an author, it's a thing of a good editor, how they're working together. I think sometimes it's really the time, like, okay, you have only 3 months for the rule book or something like this.
Yeah.
And for the more difficult games, it increases to write a good rule book. And I love playing Kingdom Death Monster or things like that, the huge Kickstarters, and they're often really hard with the rules.
Yes.
But for me, it's okay because this is another kind of game. For an expert, the rules can be not so elegant, I think, because they can work through it. But for Spiel des Jahres, it's very important that the people can open the game and read only a short rule and then start playing. I love tutorials, like Jaws of the Lion. Jaws of the Lion, I really loved it because you have the small tutorial for 5 scenarios, and after that, you really can play Gloomhaven.
Yeah.
And I've played about 260 hours Gloomhaven, so really loved this game. And when people ask me, what should I do when I start playing Gloomhaven, I always say, play Jaws of the Lion first.
Yeah, I've got Gloomhaven myself, and I haven't played Jaws of the Lion, but that'd be my advice as well, because Jaws of the Lion just seems a nicer introduction to that world.
It's wonderful. It's really wonderful to get such a complex game explained in a tutorial.
Yeah.
And so really, I love tutorials when you do it in a good way to tell the people how to play the game. When we test Spiel des Jahres games, I have always one time with a group to unpack it and see how it is if one family would buy this game and put it on the desk. So we unpack it together. We read the rules together. We do everything together. And then we see how does it goes? How does it flow? Is it okay? Are there a lot of questions? How long does it last, and so on? And so I always do that. Before Spiel des Jahres, I was somebody who always prepared for such an evening. So I had the game and I could explain it and so on. And now we do it all on the desk. So because I have this feeling only one time per game.
Yeah, so you get an idea of how a family just buying that game would experience it. Yeah, great idea.
Because this is one of the things when we have games, which I'm thinking about, is it Spiel des Jahres or is it Kennerspiel des Jahres? I have to play it with different groups, and I have to see it, how it's functioning. And that's really nice. Yeah.
Well, we're just about the end of our time, Martina. So I'd just like to ask one more question. What was your personal favorite game out of all the nominees this year for the Spiel and the Kennerspiel?
Okay, all of the nominees.
Yeah. Well, what was your personal favorite? What would you like to have seen won if it wasn't your particular favorite?
I can't say anything about that.
Okay, sure.
But the game which I really love to play this year is now Frosthaven.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It isn't out in German, so we're playing the English Kickstarter. And this is really the game in this year I love to play because it does so much better than Gloomhaven.
Yeah, great. I mean, I've got Gloomhaven myself, and my campaign is kind of paused at the moment because we've all become very busy. But I hope to get back to it eventually. We're about 20 missions in, I think. But yeah, I really like Gloomhaven, and Frosthaven looks amazing.
Yeah, so I started that now, and I've played all the games we nominate. I played a lot, and I love to play them all. Or because every game has its own time to play it. Yeah. Like fun facts, you play with a nice group. I love to play challenges, the Kennerspiel des Jahres, for a starter of a game evening. Yeah. Icky, which you all played at 2015. It's an old game for the English people. Yeah. It's a very nice game, which very nice things to think about it, but it's for 4 players. When I see Planet Unknown, you can play with 6 players and you're puzzling and so on. So I think every game has really a good time.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time, Martina. And
you're welcome.
I will hope to maybe speak to you again in future years. Thank you.
I would love to. Bye.
Bye. I had a great time talking to Martina. She was a really interesting guest. And it was really interesting getting an insight into the Kennerspiel des Jahres, especially. I think that's one of the awards that's most misunderstood outside of Germany and the sort of ceremony itself. It's because it's all, like I referred to it at the top as the Connoisseurs Award and said we'd come back to it because I kind of realize now that's not what it is at all. It's just like, it's as Martina put it, I think Martina put it something like, basically it's just like, it's sort of the next step. It's like, if you want to play something a little bit more, with a little bit more crunch to it, or if it's just a little bit more bite to it, but not necessarily like a Vida Lasarda heavy Euro game. Yeah. It's just that next step. It's like trying to get people into the hobby. I think that's something that we in sort of the English speaking world don't really understand about the Spiel. It's not really the game of the year as such, like all games like put through a filter and this is the best game for all hobby gamers. It's to get people into the hobby. It's to say to people like Martina was saying in the interview, it's like people buy the Spiel des Jahres for Christmas for people because that's the game you buy. And it's it's an award that gets people into the hobby, that grows the hobby, and that's really that's something to be applauded, I think.
I think so. I think it's something we should have more of globally in the UK and other countries as well. It's obviously important to also nominate and award, awards for games that are standing out within the hobby, which are expert games, which are, the game of the year, to recognize designers working hard and creating something new. But that's what Spiel is about. Spiel is, as an association, a charitable association as well. So their awards about getting people into the hobby. So people who may have played Monopoly, who may have played chess or something, and the sort of little logo, the little peg, is known certainly in Germany, definitely, probably other German-speaking countries as well. And as I say, people just buy that as a game for Christmas presents because they know it should be quite easy to learn, quite easy to play. Certainly, the Spiel des Jahres is, if it's for kids, they might get the Kinderspiel des Jahres winner, or as if you have played several Spiel des Jahres games and want something maybe the next level, it's a Kennerspiel. And as we've said, it's not the expert game, it's not the connoisseur's game. It is a sort of next level Spiel des Jahres. It's still for people outside the hobby, really, who don't play every week with a games group and play all the latest and greatest, but something that they can pick up and they know it may take a bit longer to learn and maybe a bit more demanding and have some extra mechanisms in there. But it's still, something they can pick up and learn. And that is so great to see. And I think we want more of that. We want more people in the hobby. We want to get away from this idea of the gatekeeping of, oh, look, you're not a real gamer because you don't play this level of heaviness game. And that's what Spiel is basically doing. It's not just the award. As an organization, they're doing so much more as well, encouraging game play and game as a sort of social artifact in society, something that should be seen alongside books and films and things like that. So it's nice to see.
Yeah, very well put. Let's move on to a bunch of updates.
Yes, so back in episode 123, we reported on the move by Upper Deck to bring a lawsuit against publisher Ravensburger. The suit alleged that Ravensburger was infringing on Upper Deck's intellectual property by producing the Disney Lorcaner game. The game is being designed by Ryan Miller, a former employee of Upper Deck. Now, Upper Deck alleged that Lorcaner bears some resemblance to a game that Ryan was working on for them before he left. The case has now advanced slightly, being moved to the California Federal Court. Paul Lesker, who is an attorney we have shared information from before, broke down what the new documents mean. The case is being moved to a federal court because the defendants are not in the same state as Upper Deck, so the federal court is where the case should reside. Ryan Miller confirms when he worked with Upper Deck from December 2018 to October 2020. He began work with Ravensburger in November 2020. Now, Paul points out that this makes clear there was no overlap in his working for the two companies. Ravensburger also filed a declaration from Florian Baldenhofer, who is the International Category Director at Ravensburger North America. In this declaration, they state that more than $75,000 have been spent in producing Disney Lorcaner. This is because this is the minimum that has to be at stake between citizens of different states if the case is to be heard in a federal court. Now, on Thursday, the 13th of July, Ravensburger issued a formal response to the Upper Deck lawsuit. In this, they said the case was based on
baseless claims that are entirely without merit.
Then they went on to say,
Upper Deck claims it would have sought the return of confidential information and or prevented its employees from communicating with Mr. Miller if it was aware of Mr. Miller's employment at Ravensburger and the company's work on a competing TCG, that's trading card game. But Upper Deck was aware of Mr. Miller's employment with Ravensburger and work on Lorcaner when the game was announced in September 2022. And despite that awareness, Upper Deck did nothing. Upper Deck cannot now lament that it was damaged by its own inaction.
So Ravensburger moved to dismiss the case outright and have brought on legal heavyweight Brian Lewis. Lewis was responsible for some of the protections that Magic: The Gathering still enjoys to this day, and it's likely the world of trading card games would look very different without him. On the 19th of July, Upper Deck responded. In a statement, they said,
Ravensburger's attempted dismissal fails to address Upper Deck's merited lawsuit to protect Upper Deck's intellectual property. This is a strategic deflection of our core allegations. We will continue to prosecute this case to enforce our rights and to ensure fair play within the gaming community.
The motion to dismiss will be heard on August the 14th, 2023, after the game launches at Gen Con. So, yeah, first of all, thanks to Gavin Jones from Discord for keeping on top of this. So things, as you probably would expect in legal circles, they're moving quite slowly, and it's the sort of everyone saying what they feel should be done or shouldn't be done. So it's the sort of war words with no one admitting to anything specifically, some facts being brought up, and literally just, I think they're just setting the stage and trying to maneuver the case to a court that might be most suitable from both sides. But yeah, other than that, I don't know, we can't really say much more. We just wait what comes next.
Yeah, if I remember rightly, Paul Lesko, who we shared information from last time we were talking about this, he's an attorney on Twitter, basically said that one of the problems Upper Deck is going to face is that they moved so slowly against Ravensburger. They've obviously known for some time, as Ravensburger say in those quotes there. So yeah, Upper Deck have moved very slowly against Ravensburger, and I think that's probably going to stand against them trying to bring this case. And especially now the game's going to be out by the time this dismissal sort of decision comes around. That is going to be problematic.
We'll have to see. Now, speaking of taking their time, Ian.
On the last episode of the cast, we reported on the trouble that Petersen Games seemed to be in with regards to their Demon Sultan Kickstarter. This is an expansion for the Cthulhu Wars board game. They had been asking backers for funding for individual pallets and pledging to get games out as soon as they could to backers. Backers could pay towards the pallet their game was on to get shipped, but some backers were being asked for money even though they already had their games. The whole thing was a complete mess. It does seem, however, that something is going on. Posting in an update to backers that is also public, Petersen Games said,
"We have secured funds from a fan who wishes to remain anonymous, which will allow us to fulfill all remaining backer orders for Cthulhu Wars Onslaught 4.
They go on to say that anyone who has contributed to pallets will be getting a refund. Further down this update, they say this.
It has been a very turbulent few years at Petersen Games. Everyone has an opinion on everything we've said and done, and we've certainly made our fair share of mistakes, perhaps more than our fair share. Fortunately, we anticipate that these years of turbulence are happily coming to an end very soon. In addition to securing funding for backer fulfillment, we are penning an agreement that would mean the biggest shift ever to transpire for us. Here is all I can say at this moment. First, the news is huge. Second, the news is entirely good. Third, the news would paint a clearer picture regarding our other outstanding Kickstarter projects as well as future game releases, and keeping product lines like Cthulhu Wars in stock. It should restore confidence in the future of Petersen Games. More news in coming weeks, especially heading into Gen Con.
Many thanks to Mihai Georgescu from our Discord, who allowed us to report some quotes from them last time about this situation. They've been keeping on top of what's been happening and very, very grateful for those updates. There is some speculation in the comments that Petersen Games... There's some speculation in the comments on the Kickstarter that Petersen Games is being bought out, and I could see that as a possibility. The games that Petersen Games produce are pretty well regarded, like Cthulhu Wars is very well regarded. It's just the management of the projects and the games that has been the problem. So I could see someone buying the assets effectively of Petersen Games and effectively taking over a bit, maybe paying off the current management to go away and then to someone take over. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. Someone says like, yeah, we're taking over.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And as you say, there's certainly valuable IP there and value products that could be taken over by another company, or however it may be. Maybe it's the same company just changing management. Who knows what the actual details will be? But it sounds like there's some sort of fresh injection of cash coming in and maybe other things as well. So we'll see.
Indeed. And talking about companies taking over other companies.
Yes, there's some further news. Back in episode 119, we had James Naylor on the cast to talk about the recent acquisition of Inside the Box by his company, Naylor Games. James Naylor, head honcho of Naylor Games, is a patron of the Giant Brain. We thought we should be clear about that before the rest of this update. Naylor Games have now put together a Game Found project to get games to backers. The project is a pledge manager only, and is allowing backers of those projects to pledge shipping money to get their games delivered to them. To remind listeners, when we spoke to James in episode 119, he made it clear that there was stock produced of many of the ITB projects, but that Naylor Games would not be able to absorb the cost of shipping those games. The Pledge Manager allows an individual to see all the games coming to them and how Naylor Games have worked out the shipping. At the moment, Naylor Games are planning to begin shipping in September and will leave the Pledge Manager open for the next 3 weeks. Well, as I said, it's obviously great to see things moving forward. I wouldn't want to be in James's shoes. There's lots of things to sort out. I mean, even getting to this point must have been a lot of work to establish what actually is there, what's in the warehouse or wherever it is. Well, actually, wherever it is as well. So the other things, not just what's available, but where is it, how to get it, working out costs. And as James said before, he's trying to work literally at cost basis. This is not about making more money out of the shipping. This is covering just the cost to get stuff to backer. So I think, if anything, Naylor Games might break even on this just about, if at all. Yeah. I feel it's probably more likely going to be loss-making if you consider all the time that's gone into this as well. So anyway, hopefully most of the ITV backers will be grateful for the efforts. I've seen some comments that people obviously aren't happy having to pay quite a bit for maybe a single game that they can now buy new from other publishers. Yeah. We've obviously had that issue as well, and I've seen that being announced on Facebook and stuff that you can buy Subterra 2 from, I think, Pegasus Spiel and stuff like that. So there's obviously, the games are available in other places potentially. So yeah, it's a tough situation, but I think Naylor Games is doing great work here, and hopefully people appreciate it, that they will still get their product despite costing more than they expected.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation to sort out, and James seems to really have his head screwed on with how he's going about it. So yeah, hopefully all those things will be brought to a resolution by the end of the year, sounds it, which is great.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And now, on to the news.
Yes, we've got some more awards news. Because Jamie isn't here, I'm taking over that. The Spiel des Jahres is not the only one doing the rounds at the moment. The Indie Game Developer Network, or IGDN, is, in their own words,
an international volunteer trade organization that supports indie game developers creating, publishing, and promoting fantastic games.
The organization supports all sorts of different tabletop games, as well as supporting live-action role-playing. It also has its own awards, which I don't think we've actually reported on before. There's a wide range of nominees for the following awards: Most Innovative, Best Art, Best Graphic Design, Best Rules, Best Setting, and Game of the Year. The winners of the award will be announced on the 29th of July, and we'll put a link to all the nominees in the show notes. It's the kind of award that we really love here at Brainwaves because it highlights a bunch of games that I hadn't really heard of before, all sound really interesting. There are single-player RPGs here, kids games, epic fantasy, weird sci-fi, all sorts of things. There's a special mention to Fiona Ruthven for their single-player game Dead Air. Fiona's one of the folks who set up the much-missed Lucky Sparrow Gaming Cafe in Glasgow and was a long-time patron of the cast for some time. Isn't anymore, but we still stay in touch. So best of luck with those awards.
And yeah, I must say, I follow IGDN on Twitter, and it's nice to see that they are supporting the smaller publishers. And as you say, seeing them getting an award and a special mention is always great, because it's not just the big players. It's quite often the smaller publishers, the self-publishers that have some great ideas and interesting games coming out. So yeah, congratulations to the nominees, and we'll see who's winning.
Indeed. But moving on to Train to Nowhere.
Yes, nice one. Hornby is a company.
I'm great at links.
Choo-choo. Hornby is a UK company whose main product is model railways. Established in 1901, the company has continued to thrive and had annual sales of 55.11 million British pounds in 2023. Now, the company announced recently that it has bought a stake in Warlord Games. Warlord Games are a company that specializes in historical wargaming miniatures and produce games such as Bolt Action, a World War II game, and Hail Caesar, a game set in the early Bronze Age. It was founded in 2007 by 2 former Games Workshop employees. Warlord Games has previously collaborated with Hornby on a dogfighting, that's aerial combat, game called Blood Red Skies that could use Airfix models. Hornby now owns 25% of Warlord Games, a stake that amounts to about £1.3 million. This is a minority stake for now, so Hornby don't have control of the company completely. The option remains for Hornby to increase its holdings should it so wish. Now, Hornby is a much bigger company than Warlord Games, so it's an interesting move. I can see that it makes sense for Hornby if they want to move into the hobby of wargaming. And obviously they will have models, as we heard just now, that Blood Red Skies could use Airfix models. So why not move into the sort of miniature realm and combine it with stuff they're already doing, but add the gaming part to it, maybe competing with Games Workshop. I don't know. So yeah, interesting news.
Yeah, Warlord Games take every year it's in the hundreds of thousands of pounds rather than the millions of pounds. So to give you a sense of the scale of Hornby above Warlord. Yeah,
it's nice to see.
So, it's an interesting move for sure.
So here's another toy company we want to talk about, Ian.
As first reported on an Austrian board game website Spiel, Haba, a Germany-based games company that has a focus on children's games, seems to be in a lot of trouble. Haba, based in Bad Rodach in Upper Franconia, is the largest employer in the Coburg district of Germany. Haba has so far not said much about the situation. All that has been publicly announced is that Haba was
forced to make massive staff cuts.
The cuts were said to be due to
a slump in sales, especially in the end customer business.
Now, as far as we know, on the 11th of July, staff were sent information that of the 2,000 employees, 650 are likely to lose their jobs. The plan seems to be that redundancy and other packages would be negotiated by the middle of August. However, it is not clear who may be affected by these job losses. According to Haba's own figures, sales at the company decreased from €364.2 million in 2019 to €347 million in 2021. Some unofficial sources say that sales continued to decline in 2022 and eventually plummeted at the beginning of this year. Suspicions over the company's health began at the toy fair in Nuremberg at the end of January, when Haba had only 4 new games available. The then company director Tim Steffens, who had been in the office since June 2019, left the company at the end of March. Shortly after, a new management team, including a granddaughter of the company founder, took over the helm of the Haba family group in April. A few days later, Haba announced that the 8 locations of the Haba Digital Werkstatt, a digital learning hub which started in 2016, would be closed. Ultimately, though, it seems that migrating all brand service to a new uniform piece of software is to blame for the Haba's troubles. Around 38% of the company's sales are direct to end consumers, through web shops and similar channels. While these were really successful previously, the new software removed certain functionality, leading to frustrated customers who voted with their feet. Now, thanks very much to Gavin Jones from our Discord for bringing this to our attention. I think we really have to wait and see when Haba makes a public announcement, because at the moment this is just all from sort of insider business knowledge. It seems more likely that the company was already in trouble than just about software. It doesn't seem like software could bring down a company this size, but maybe. I mean, if you've got a lot of direct consumers, especially if you're selling direct to retailers who suddenly can't buy your product because your website's terrible. I have experience. Yeah. I have experience of this in the bicycle retail industry when bicycle companies decide to change their websites and it all goes horribly wrong. So yeah, I mean, it could be that, I guess, to an extent, but yeah, there must be more going on there, surely.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably a combination. I think financial analysts do point to this relatively large chunk of direct sales, basically. And yeah, if you don't keep customers happy, they'll go somewhere else. I mean, Haba might not just be about the toys and games, but all the other things they're doing. They got some direct mail order brands and things like that. But yeah, if there's 38% of the company's sales are directly to customers, and those customers, even a good chunk of them leave, then the company will be in trouble. But then obviously add to that the general troubles in the world with companies struggling. You can see why maybe there will be cutbacks necessary.
Also more competitors, I guess, as well. I mean, I don't know much about the kids' sort of board game industry, but there must be, like there have been in the hobby games, there must be many more companies coming through producing kids' games. No, it's just competition for you.
And it's just it's toys as well. Obviously, the wooden blocks and things, you can buy them probably cheaply at Aldi or Lidl or something. So it's, as I say, it's probably a tough environment for them to work in.
For sure.
And yeah, they'd have to just try and shift, maybe. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see for the public announcements, as you say.
But the FTC have been very public recently, Oliver.
They have. Now, coming to us from Board Game Wire, it seems that board game content creators are coming under the watchful eye of the Federal Trade Commission, FTC. The FTC is the United States government agency responsible for consumer protection. The organization has just updated its guidance on endorsements and testimonials in advertising to include online influencers working on social media platforms. So, listen out, everyone. This guidance makes it clear that folk have to make it clear when they receive free games, payment for advertising, or even items like travel and accommodation that could be seen as influencing their opinion. Speaking to Board Game Wire, an FTC spokesperson said,
"The FTC Act and the principles underlying the endorsement guides apply to game companies and game influencers. If some followers of game influencers don't expect them to get the games for free, and if knowing about the free games would affect the credibility that follower gives to the endorsements, then the free games should be disclosed. We have brought cases against companies whose influencers have not disclosed material connections."
Jamie Stegmaier, founder of Stonemaier Games, which publishes Wingspan, said,
"I've noticed more creators on Instagram tagging their content as paid promotion from the publisher for games we've sent to them. I'd like to see Instagram offer more accurate tags/labels, as there's a literal difference between getting a cardboard box and receiving money to express an opinion, but it will do for now. Up until now, I've put the impetus on reviewers to be transparent about receiving free review copies, but this is a good reminder, an opportunity to take some of the responsibility ourselves. So I've added a paragraph about this on our reviewer guidelines and in the template I use when I contact reviewers each month."
Now, it's obviously always been the case that you have to disclose when you get free review copies or any other compensation it's basically just the ethical thing to do. And I think in the UK, we've been probably more clear about that, and that there have been probably clearer guidelines on that.
We've got people like the Trading Standards Commission, things like that, Trading Standards Agency that look at that kind of thing in the UK, and ACT, who I've been trying to get on for a very long time, who are like Advertising Standards Authority kind of people. I'm trying to get them on the cast for a while to talk about this stuff, but I just can't get any.
Yeah, it'd be good to get them on the cast, but I think, as we've all seen on various social media platforms and other public board game forums, in the US, it always seems to be the feeling that, getting a free copy is fine. Okay, we can probably agree with that, but still you probably want to declare it. But even getting paid is fine as well. You can say your opinion because you're still independent and you don't necessarily need to say that you get paid, and who cares? And I think that attitude obviously has been growing, not just in the board game hobby, probably in other places as well. And that's why the FTC is picking up on that now. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do see some public cases where fines will be issued and all that quite soon.
And I can speak to what Jamie said at the end of that quote there, that he's added a paragraph into reviewer guidelines, because I got an email from Stonemaier Games just today about a review copies, and there is a paragraph in there about being upfront and declaring that the copy you got is a free review copy and all that. So that is in there.
So that's all good news, I think. Great to see it being possibly now enforced more in the US as well. And obviously even over here in the UK, I think both Giant Brain and Tabletop Games Blog, we're always trying to be as ethical as we can be, disclosing relevant information if there is a potential conflict, and then readers, listeners can decide how much influence there has been and make up their mind. But at least the information is there, and that's important. Now, speaking of good news, Ian.
Yes, the Game Manufacturers Association, or GAMA, is offering grants to those based in the United States or Canada. The grants are worth $1,000 and come with mentoring. They are aimed at new board game publishers and retailers from underrepresented communities. Successful applicants will get a GAMA membership worth $300 and free admission to the next GAMA Expo in March 2024, alongside a complimentary hotel stay and $1,000 towards the cost of flights. GAMA said of the program,
"We welcome as broad a range of publishers and retailers into the tabletop community as possible, but there are some key components that applicants should possess. Ideal publisher participants will have an existing title in market or a late-stage prototype and a strong potential for growth. Ideal retailer participants will have an existing brick-and-mortar retail store established within the past 3 years, or an online retail business with a strong desire to open a brick-and-mortar retail store.
I mean, this feels like a good initiative to me, and it's nice to see GAMA doing something other than rearranging its board of directors for once. And
Yes.
actually doing something and like trying to, pull people up and help people out. That's good. Just a reminder, folks, it is only US and Canada for now, so do remember that if you are applying.
And I presume the amounts are US dollars rather than Canadian dollars.
Yes, I believe so. They are, yes. But we're not done with GAMA quite yet, because there's been some awards from that organization.
Yes, at the end of June, the Origins Award winners for 2023 were announced. The Origins Awards are one of the biggest American awards, and it's handed out by the Academy of Adventure Gaming Arts and Design, a subsidiary of the Game Manufacturers Association. There are quite a few categories, so we're just going to highlight a few of them. So Game of the Year was Boop by Smirk and Dagger Games, which was designed by Scott Brady. Best card game went to Scout by Oin Games, designed by Kei Kajino, personal favorite of Ian's and, says Ian's, and it's mine as well. I love Scout as well. Best RPG core book system, Coyote and Crow, published by Coyote and Crow and designed by Connor Alexander. There's a whole list of other winners on the site. Obviously, there'll be a link in the description as always, and we congratulate all of them.
I mean, but do we, Oliver? Do we congratulate all of them? Because I would like to have a small conversation about one of the awards. There is a Best Review Award this year. I think that may be a new thing. I don't remember seeing Origins Award before. And it's a fairly pedestrian review of mind management. And if you're going to give out that kind of award, I really want to go into like really awesome review writing. I don't want it to me. I want to see Dan Thurrow winning that award. People like that who write incredibly well and critically and with historical context about games and just write really interesting things. Can we not do a little better than? I mean, it's a fine review. But it's only fine. That's all it is. It's just it's not. It doesn't excite me, that review. I didn't read it and go, oh, "That's a great piece of writing." It was just fairly matter of fact about the game. And it was fine. That was all.
Even though I would have loved to have that award, but no, I mean, to be serious, you're absolutely right. And we want reviews awarded that deserve that title. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, is this a matter of reviewers or writers anyway, or whoever having to submit it themselves?
There's that as well. Yeah, you have to submit.
And then do you have to pay for it if you want to have submissions? And it was all a bit weird, sort of how the whole award part of it worked. So yeah, I don't know. So if it's the only person submitting a review, then they will win by default. I don't know. Just
maybe I'll pay to submit some of mine next year.
Yeah, I think we all should.
Because that's ethical. Yeah. Listen to our interview with Martina Fuchs about how the Spiel des Jahres has done Origins Awards, and maybe you can get some ideas.
Exactly. Speaking of paying for things, though, this is quite positive payments, though.
Yes, Cubicle 7, the publishers of the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay RPG, have made a large donation to the Children's Health Foundation. The donation was made possible by fans of the company who bought game bundles through the site Humble Bundle, which does a bunch of sort of like bundle RPG PDFs every week, and different companies are featured all the time. The donation was €52,450. That's about £45,538, and goes towards supporting sick children and their families in Children's Health Foundation hospitals and urgent care centres across Ireland. Dominic McDowell, Cubicle 7's founder and CEO, said this.
My son receives amazing care from everyone in Children's Health Ireland at Crumlin, which is supported by the Children's Health Foundation. And as a family, we are so grateful for their efforts in keeping him healthy and well. From the medical staff to the ward cleaners and porters, everyone there has supported us as a family through a very challenging period. I'm delighted to be able to help support their work to help sick children and their families through this donation.
Always nice to be reminded of the generosity of gamers. I mean, charity auctions are a common feature at conventions. They're always well attended. People are very generous with their money. And yeah, it's great to see such a large donation coming from a big publisher.
Definitely
so worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, Oliver, what's going on in the world of jobs and events?
Well, first of all, we want to remind everyone of the Tabletop Jobs Facebook group. As we keep saying, there's probably quite a few American, US jobs in there, but have a look. You never know.
So there's been some British jobs in there recently. I've spied.
There you go. Okay. I should have a look myself then. And then we have Airecon Manchester. So Airecon, the annual play-focused convention in Harrogate, Yorkshire, is expanding its reach once more. Having previously announced a new show called Airecon West for Telford in October of this year, the organisation is now launching Airecon Northwest in Manchester on the 8th to the 10th of December. Tickets are available now with exhibitors and events to be announced. And then finally, Scott James from Minerva has made us aware of the Playfest, which is running on September the 9th in London. It will be taking place in the Queen Mary University and is focused on helping designers to playtest their games, hence the name Playfest. It's sort of a play on words for playtest. A 2-hour playtesting slot will cost £10, or if you just want to go along and play, it is totally free. Playtesters have the opportunity to win games from some of the publishers supporting the event. There will also be a digital playtesting talk from Dr. Aluka D. Gaynor, who had her students use machine learning to analyze the Pandemic board game.
We just like to take a wee moment now to give a little shout out to all our lovely patrons. Thank you so much for all continuing to support the cast monetarily, especially our executive producers, Kevin Bertram from Fort Circle, James Naylor from Naylor Games, and Shaun Newan from the Game Lot team. We really appreciate your support. You can join them for only $1 a month. It just gives us money towards our hosting costs with the website and cast. There are numerous other ways to support us on the site, direct donations. There's some merchandise on Sir Meeple, t-shirts and that kind of thing. And you can also buy dice from Metallic Dice Games, now called FanRoll, but the promo code remains the same, Roll with Brains, all capital letters, all one word. If you'd like to support us monetarily, that's great. And we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Now, there's some dice you won't be able to buy with a promo code.
I don't think you want these dice.
No, they've been previously used in a weird number of ways. Anyway, so the 10th edition Warhammer 40k is upon us, and with that comes a new meta. Why pay attention to that meta, though, when you can just cheat? At a recent tournament, an attendee was caught using weighted dice to win turn order roll-offs. They were asked to leave the tournament. On their way out, they flushed the weighted dice down the toilet, and they were later discovered by someone going to use the facilities. Now, if you think about it, these are weighted dice. They probably have a piece of lead or something certainly very heavy in them.
Yeah.
So they're not like other dice that potentially even float in water if you have very light dice. So they definitely won't flush down.
Well, one of the reasons they were caught was the dice were tested in salt water to see if they would constantly bring up the same number, and they did. And then the person was asked to leave. But why flush them after you're caught? I mean, you've been caught. You might as well take them with you. It seems weird to do that afterwards.
Leave them as a present.
Very strange. But finally, folks, before we sign off, we just wanted to bring this slightly mind-blowing bit of information to your attention. Critical Role, the RPG streaming juggernaut, is attending a London MCM Comic Con and hosting a show at OVA Arena Wembley. That is a 12,500 seat arena, and they've sold it out the first day. That is that's a lot of people watching a bunch of people role playing. That's
amazing.
That blows my mind. It really does. That is amazing. Thank you very much for listening, folks. It was a longer than normal cast, but we wanted to bring you a bunch of interviews from the Spiel that we could. If you like what you've listened to, then the best way to help us out as ever is just to share the podcast and drop us a review and rating on your podcast host of choice. You can also follow Oliver at table.gamesblog.com. You can come and join us in our Discord if you'd like, where myself, Oliver, and Jamie are happy to welcome you and play games and talk about the news. Our Twitter is @TheGiantBrain. Our Instagram is GiantBrainUK, and we are on Threads now as well, so that's the same ID. Our Facebook is The Giant Brain. Our website is giantbrain.co.uk, and you can contact us about anything in the show, stories you'd like us to cover, or comment on the stories that we've covered already at giantbrainuk@gmail.com. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. We'll see you then. Bye now.
Bye. See you then.